What's going on, everybody? Daryl Andrews, Coach D here again with another LinkedIn Live that streams to Facebook and YouTube. So it's good to see everyone out there. Hope you're all doing well. Had a great weekend. And just want to have another conversation about this thing of leadership, which we've been talking a lot about recently. The beginning of the year, we had more of a personal message around reconstruction in your life. Hopefully, people got a lot out of that. But today, I just want to take a moment and talk about leadership. And there's a reason why. The just one second. I'm sorry. I had a chance to interact this weekend with some absolutely unequivocally amazing people. We lost a great person. His name is Jim Walton. I used to work for a company called Abbott Laboratories, and we called him Jimbo. And he was just an amazing person. Jimbo was the kind of person. I'll just lay a foundation. I worked for Abbott Laboratories many years ago in their medical diagnostics division, and in that division we sold what was called analyzers. So you had what's called immunoassay analyzers, where you had tests like thyroid functions, PSAs, things like that. We sold therapeutic drug monitoring systems. We sold chemistry analyzers to hospitals, laboratories, and all. So it was a pretty sophisticated kind of a job. You had to learn a lot. The training was intense. I mean, you had to literally almost like go to med school. That's how intense the training was. And so to say literally, it wasn't that easy. It was a lot of work with that job. But during that time, there weren't many African American executives with Abbott. I know there's quite a few now, but back then there weren't. But the one that they had that was pretty neat was a guy named Jim Walton, and we called him Jimbo. And I'll tell you something, man. This guy was something special. He literally pulled no punches as far as how he led people. I mean, he was a serious leader. I mean, he could chew you out with the best of them, you know. And but he was also pretty smooth because you see him, he was always fashionable. I mean, he had on custom made suits before they were popular. And Daryl Gresham, who's a part of Abbott, spoke at his funeral. He was sharing this, and I remember it. You know, he wore gator shoes and all of that, and so he was sharp. He was sharp. He really was, and but Jim was the kind of person that at Abbott, like many companies, you had serious sales quotas, and you had to hit the sales quotas, and because that was part of your job if you were in sales and marketing. But the reality is that Jim knew that we had these goals that we had to hit. But as tough as he was on us individually for these goals that we were aspiring to go after, he was also equally as compassionate. All right, equally as compassionate. Which what I mean by that is he'd chew you out one day about what you're supposed to do. Then he taking you out to dinner and talking about how's the family. He was something else, So many of us that worked with him, man, we love that guy. He was phenomenal. But the reason why I'm using him in this conversation today is we want to talk about a legacy of leadership. Because what I find in our work, a lot of times people are leading, okay? They're leading, but they're not leading thinking about the future. Other words, what will people say about my leadership years from now? You know, and that's a really important thing to consider from a leadership perspective, because most of the time, most leaders are leading in the moment with the pressures and deadlines and goals of that. And he had them way back then too. But, you start to realize at some point, when do I look at the fact that I'm dealing with a person, a human being with a family, wife, kids, husband across the board, you know, uh, just an individual that is more than just a sales quota and and all that, but a person that is having a real life human experience and someone that I need to see in that manner. And that's what I felt with this guy. I really did. Even though he was hard nosed, he was no joke, he was no nonsense. He made me a better person, and he made me a better person by not always patting me on the back. He didn't, but he made me a better person because just as much as he was intentional about hitting those goals. And that's why he accelerated to the highest levels of that company, because he was equally as interested in your life and your interests. Matter of fact, I'll jump ahead. When I start doing what I'm doing today with the consulting and coaching, he had reached out to me and just said how proud he was. Really just how proud he was of what I'm doing. And he always knew that was in me. He didn't have to do that. I wasn't still working for Abbott, and we stayed in touch all the way up to his unfortunate demise recently, and a passing recently. And so, but one of the reasons I want to share this as well is there's a lot of talk out here about diversity, equity, and inclusion. He was African American and high level with Abbott, but what I want to share is what took place this weekend. This is the legacy of leadership. At that funeral, you had people, African Americans, you had Hispanic, you had women, you just had people from all walks of life who worked under this man. And it doesn't matter what you were, as far as race or female, or everybody said the same thing. Everybody said the same thing about this man as a leader. How he pushed them, but he cared about them. How he expected excellence, but then he would ask about how your kids doing it. The little things that were of interest to you personally. He took the time to do that. And so when I was sitting there with all these great individuals from Abbott, many of them gone on and done some phenomenal things with your life. We've all done something pretty successful in our own right. But, CEOs of companies and, all these different things, some of them still involved with the medical diagnostics and pharmaceutical type work. And every single person, no matter what their skin color, no matter their gender, the reality is had the same thing to say, which is a powerful legacy of leadership, that this man could take people up under his wings, not judge them, not criticize them, not put them down, but push them towards excellence and make them better people, no matter who they were. And that they respected them because of that. And so I think one question I have for leaders out there, and if you're a leader yourself, chime in and you can put something in the chat. I can't guarantee if we'll see it because it takes some Facebook, it takes some LinkedIn. I think you have to ask the system to be able to post so I can see it. If not, I won't see it. But do you think about, as you're leading people, what they're going to be saying about you years from now? Think about that. Are you leading people just for the moment because there's an outcome you want? Now what's crazy is this man always hit his outcomes. We hit our sales goals. Abbott is one of the top sales and medical diagnostics companies in the world when I was working for them. We sold all kinds of systems. We did well. But the point I'm making is, all these years later, in that very intense company that had really high standards, we go to a funeral of a man that we all love dearly and miss because of the fact of what he did for us way back then as humans, not just as sales representatives or sales trainers, or some of the folks were in different capacities and management and leadership. It didn't matter. We were all impacted. All right. So let me give you a few things, because that's what I do. I give advice. So if we want to talk about leadership from a legacy perspective, this is a few things you need to think about. If you're a leader, you may want to think, just get this in mind, get over the pressure of the moment, get over the struggles of the times, because we all go through it, but let's think in the future a little bit. All right. And so when you're leading people today, think about the person as well as the position. And what I mean by that, a lot of times we just focus on the position. You're this, you're that. I'm going to grill you for this and this and that, and you got to get this done. Never thinking about the person. Never thinking about their well-being. Never thinking about they got to go home to a family. It's all about just getting it done. Whatever getting it done is means. For some people it's sales, some people it's interacting with people. It could be customer service, whatever it is. So my whole interaction with you is what you do between those hours at work. I'm not thinking about you beyond that. I'll tell you something, as a person in leadership, that will wear people out. It really will. because now it's not even, it's just about get this job done. Now, that doesn't mean the person not supposed to get the job done, but not just the position, but the person. Who is this person? Pierre Campbell and I were talking about a little bit earlier about one of the great leadership principles is really relationship building. Who is this person that works for me? Do I know them outside of the 9 to 5 or 9 to 10 or never many hours they may work? Do I understand some of their interests? Do I understand who they are as an individual? Do I understand? Or is it just get this job done? That's the kind of leadership that doesn't lead to the legacy like Jim left. We wouldn't have been in there flying from all over the country, in some cases all over the world, to honor this man if that was the kind of leader that he was. You see? And so keep that in mind. We talk about legacy related leadership. And also, it's not about your goals, all right, all the time. Sometimes it's about their needs. You know what I mean? It's about their needs. And so, I remember Jim and I, when we would have our interactions, I didn't directly work for him, but I worked in the division that he was way up at the top dealing with. But, I was a newlywed, and he just would talk to me about marriage and family and things like that. It's just, that was just a part of the conversation. Yeah, we had to hit some of our sales goals and all of that, but then that conversation kicked in too. So let me tell you something from a leadership perspective to keep in mind, because this is a powerful leadership principle. If there's days where I have to be a little bit difficult and challenging as a leader because there's things I have to do to get the job done, you know what makes that easier? When there's a relationship. So I know when Jim was pressing us, all right, he was pressing us because he saw the potential in us. I didn't take it personally. I knew the man. I knew who he was. You see, it's hard to receive from somebody you don't have a relationship with. So if you're pressing me and pushing me and I don't know who you are and you don't know who I am, then guess what? I can personalize it. Now I'm angry at you. I'm not even looking at the fact that you're just trying to create some movement towards an outcome. I don't know you. And I think a lot of times there's a lot of leaders out there, people don't even know who they are. They're just leading them. You really want to get to know people. Take time, go have lunch, break bread, come to my office, and let's just talk about things for a few minutes. That's powerful leadership. That's servant leadership. That's servant leadership. And so the servant leader understands, man, you know what? My greatest example of my leadership is what I'm able to produce as a leader. That's other leaders. You see, and that's just this is a powerful tool. So it's not always about your goals, it's about their needs. All right. And so, and then the last thing, and this is something that kind of came out of our time this weekend with all these great leaders who worked for Jim Walton at Abbott many years ago, is we said, again, Jim worked hard, but he played hard. And one thing I loved about working for Abbott, we'd have a lot of national events, national sales meetings. And then we were out there, we playing golf, or we eating dinner, we going in group meetings to different things. And I know many of you do that today, but it wasn't just all about work. We played, we had fun, we enjoyed each other, we cracked jokes, we had teams that we would compete and talk stuff with. I was a terrible golfer, so they always harassed me about my golf game because I was slowing everybody down, trying to find my balls in the woods. But those are memories. You see what I'm saying? Those are memories that I'll remember and I've taken with me in my journey now. That's why when I interact with people, I always show that I care, because I do. A lot of my customers are my friends, man. We've gone beyond just customer relationships. It's just friendships. We interact, we, care about each other, know about each other's families, things like that. You see, so work hard, but play hard. If you're managing people, take some time to play, have fun. People do all those things like ropes courses and all that. That's nice, a once a year event, but this could be something as simple as let's go to dinner. I know some leaders that work together that don't know each other, even leader amongst leader. They don't even know each other outside of working together. They have no interaction whatsoever. They don't even know each other. You see? And so work hard as a leader, but play hard, so that people can know that it's more than just the work. Really, it's about the interactions with this leader who I now respect. So that then people will know, when you do that, people will know when you're pushing them a little bit, they know your heart. he or she just, doing this because she cares, you know. And that's one thing I liked about my time with Abbott. Abbott has some tough leaders. I mean, literally, some tough leaders, some tough managers, and they didn't play. But when you got to know them, you know that they cared, even though they pushed you. They did, you know. And so, and anybody that knows anything about business, you know that sometimes you got to push yourself. It's just the way it is. And so, I just want to start share this a little bit. I had a wonderful weekend with some colleagues that I haven't seen in many, many, many years. It was a great experience interacting with the various leaders now in their own right in so many capacities, and they're proud of me. I'm proud of them, you know. But we were all there to honor a leader who in his latter years, man, was the coolest, calmest person you ever want to meet. When you worked for him, he dug into you. But once he retired and chilled, man, we just talked and laughed. And he'd send me messages, and I would, sometimes via social media. I had his number, but sometimes via phone. And I mean, my interaction with him was limited to many of them. Like I know D Gresham, if he's out here, Daryl Gresham, they were like, I was like almost like a dad to him, just that kind of relationship, and many others who work for Abbott. I know Eugene Jackson, who's also another one of my peers from Abbott. They were really, really close. So I didn't have that kind of relationship with him, but we did have a good relationship because he was a leader that cared. And so if you're going to lead with legacy in mind. Ask yourself the question, what will people say from me years about from now? If it be, we don't want to think funeral because that's always the ultimate, but even at maybe a retirement, are there going to be 5 people that can stand up and say you were a phenomenal leader? And not only was I professionally touched, but I was personally touched by your leadership. Because when we do that, that changes the scope, all right, of what we're doing. So it's about that work outcome, that business outcome, but it's also about making that person better off as a result. So I'm going to put in the chat feature some information on. We've been doing, speaking of leadership, I mentioned how Jim impacted a lot of people from a lot of walks of life. We're doing a lot of work around this diversity coaching. I'm not talking about training, coaching. We've been coaching leaders, and it's been going very well. Our customers are really doing well with this. And we have a unique, innovative framework that really is designed to bring a stronger understanding to the position of diversity in leadership and the role that leader shares in creating diverse cultures, but also understanding some of the things that needs to be learned in order to make that a reality. So if you're interested in any of that, it's in the chat feature. It should be on your page on LinkedIn, and reach out to us. We can do a strategy call, see if we can be of help, because we're about building up leaders. I mean, and it's so needed nowadays. It really is. We have a great team of coaches. They're doing phenomenal work, and we just kind of, we're very committed to what we do, no matter what it is. If it's coaching, consulting, or speaking and training, there's a tremendous commitment to our customers who we serve because we understand the importance of all of this. So that's all I got for you today. Right at 18 minutes, I try to keep these under 20, and we'll keep coming back, dropping some nuggets. Hopefully that could be helpful. So reach out to us if you have any questions. And most importantly, if you're a leader, lead with legacy in mind. What will people say about you when you retire, when your time comes in? Will it be something that is uplifting, or is it something like, man, all I got was headaches from this person? You don't want to be that kind of leader. Take care.